you even though I can't really see you. And I already did this video once and I screwed it up and I lost the recording, so I'm doing it again. But I hope everybody's doing fine, and I'm going to post this video up before our discussion tomorrow and just kind of ad lib some of the key points of operant conditioning. But I hope we're finding you, or I'm finding you, doing as well as can be expected. These are strange times. Remember what you know about being able to stay healthy and have good mental health, right? You should exercise, get some activity every day, and get enough sleep. Be outside in the sun. It's a sunny day. I'm probably going to try and get outside and might wax my vehicle in the sun. And sleep. I said that. Screen time. You got to reduce your screen time. And here I'm going to ask you to be on the screen and watch another video. But right, outside, exercise, sleep, and reduce screen time. Eat well, and that should help out. But I'm going to go over a few things. We have a discussion tomorrow morning via Canvas because we can't Zoom, unfortunately. But I will find out some information on grading on Friday. We have a staff meeting via Zoom. And hopefully by early next week, we'll have some more specific information from the AP people. I'm sure you've been on it. There's going to be an AP test. It's going to be different than we thought, but that's going to be okay. We'll be fine. So a couple things that I'm going to go over kind of flows with your notes a little bit that you see up here, but a couple extra things that I would have talked about in class. And I miss you guys. I miss your energy. I miss seeing your faces, and it lets me know whether I should back up or move forward, or just, I guess, anecdotal information that I just take for granted after having taught forever, information that I put out there. But okay, so reinforcement, a couple things that may help you out, right? Reinforcement always increases the frequency of the behavior. Reinforcement always means the behavior increases and that there was a pleasant outcome. Punishment always means the behavior decreases in frequency and that there was some unpleasant outcome or consequence. And Skinner learned this by watching rats in a Skinner box bar press or maybe get electric shocks. How do you extinguish a reinforced behavior? You just figure out what the reinforcement is for the behavior and then stop it, withhold it, and then the behavior will decrease. But there's probably going to be something, a term you may have read about, called an extinction burst. That means before the behavior extinguishes, there's going to be a quick increase in the number of behaviors before it drops off. For example, you flipping on a light switch, right? The light comes on all the time. And then you flip on a light switch, and once it doesn't come on, and you're like, what? Wait a minute. And you flip it 4 or 5 times to see if it works. That's a burst of the behavior before extinction happens and you stop flipping on the light switch because you know the light isn't going to go on. So you might be asked about extinction. Withhold the reinforcer. So my mom's dog used to jump, big dog, about 100 pounds or 90, 100 pounds, would jump and bark when I'd come over. And I would, use my knee and push it down. Well, the dog's probably thinking, fun, he's playing with me. So my mom would yell at it, get down, get down, get down. But what I started doing was just turn my back on the dog and fold my arms. And every time the dog tried to get to the front of me, I would turn around and ignore it. And when I started to do that, it would jump more, but eventually it stopped and would just sit down. So his jumping behavior extinguished, and as soon as it sat down, I would pet the dog and say, good dog, and scratch its ears. And so I kind of reinforced the quiet behavior and I didn't punish it, but I extinguished by withholding the play and the reinforcement. The law of effect, you can read about that. That was Thorndike. He called it instrumental learning. So he was before Skinner. Thorndike was in the 20s and 30s. Skinner was afterwards. You might get a question, does reinforcement always work, or does punishment always work? And the answer is yes, it does. because if it doesn't increase the behavior, then it's not reinforcement. And if it doesn't decrease the behavior, then it's not punishment. So do remember this: reinforcement and punishment are very personal things. What's reinforcing for you may not be reinforcing for me, and what's punishing for you or unpleasant for you may not be unpleasant for me. For example, you might like spicy hot wings, and you put those BW3 hot wings. I don't know if you can't go to BW3s anymore. Sorry about that. But do you get pickup? I don't know if they have pickup. But if you like spicy hot wings and you eat them up and it tastes really good, that's reinforcing for you. It's positive reinforcement because the taste arrived and you keep eating them, so it's reinforcement. For me, I would take one bite and that would be it, because I'm a super taster. So the flavor would be painful for me and I would stop eating it. So it's punishment. So do be aware that reinforcement and punishment are personal. Primary reinforcers, for the most part, are generally naturally pleasing. You don't have to learn that they're pleasant, like drinking water when you're thirsty or eating food when you're hungry, getting cool when you're too hot, or putting on a jacket and feeling warm when you're cold, sleep when you're tired. They're naturally pleasing, but it doesn't mean we exhibit the same behaviors to get those. So I might drink tap water when I'm thirsty, and you might reach for buy coconut water to reduce your thirst. But the consequence, the thirst is reduced, is the primary part. So separate behavior from the consequence. The consequence is what we analyze. The consequence was either added or removed, and it was either pleasant or unpleasant. Because I can add food in my mouth, but the consequence is my hunger goes away. So the behavior is, I'm adding food, but we would say that eating food when you're hungry is negatively reinforced because it removed the displeasure of hunger. So keep that in mind. Secondary reinforcers are sometimes referred to as conditioned reinforcers. They're anything that we had to learn that was pleasant to us, that's not naturally pleasing to everybody. Money and grades are two of the big ones. You weren't born knowing that grades were satisfying. You had to learn that grades brought you pleasure or good attention later on. Money. If I gave you $100 bill for answering a question, that would probably make you pretty gosh darn happy. Not going to happen, by the way. But if you were lost in the Brazilian rainforest all by yourself, that $100 bill wouldn't have the same value. You could try to buy somebody's help with it, but that $100 bill doesn't have any use in the rainforest of Brazil. So it is a conditioned reinforcer. So secondary reinforcers you have to learn, like applause, awards and trophies, a pretty gift box. You have to learn that those things might be pleasant, okay? Remember, positive reinforcement means a consequence arrived because you exhibited a behavior and it wasn't there before. Negative means negates. Think math here. Subtraction. I have an itch on my arm. It's already there. My behavior is to scratch it. The consequence is my itch goes away and it's pleasant. So something going away is negated, and pleasant means reinforcement. So try to separate those two things. Was the outcome pleasant or unpleasant? Did it increase, the behavior increase or decrease? That's reinforcement or punishment. And then was the consequence added because it wasn't there before? That means positive. Something was taken away or avoided because your behavior, that means negative. Shaping. Shaping is a term that's on the AP test a lot. It means gradually building step-by-step approximations of a behavior that brings reinforcement in its simplest form. And then when that behavior is normal, the reinforcement diminishes. And then only the next more complex behavior brings reinforcement until you get to a target-rich behavior that's super complex that you wouldn't be able to do by yourself. If we waited for a dog to shake hands before we reinforced it, we'd never get a handshake. But we can shape its behavior by reinforcing simpler versions of it until it's normal, and then only withholding reinforcement and only reinforcing the next more complex behavior. For example, golfing. If I'm learning how to putt, I might just putt from 18 inches away. And when I'm a little kid, making those little short putts is reinforcing for me. It's pleasant. But then after I'm really good at it, it's not pleasant anymore. The natural reinforcement diminishes. So I have to back away from it. Maybe now I'm 3 feet away and I start making those putts, and that's reinforcing for me, naturally pleasing. And then after a while, it's boring. So then I have to move further and further away until I can regularly make 10 or 12 foot putts. And then those are the only ones that are reinforcing to me, okay? So shaping by successive approximation is how we train animals to do complex behaviors. We teach them a simpler version that's part of the target behavior until that's normal, and then we withhold reinforcement. We only reinforce the next. It's how we learn to ride a bike. It's how we learn to play a complex musical instrument. Playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star on the flute might be pleasing, but if you're an accomplished artist with the flute, that's not reinforcing. But you did build, shaping is building skills based on simpler versions that are reinforcing. Most reinforcement and punishment occur naturally in the environment. It's not something that's done to us. If I put food in my mouth that's too hot, I naturally get punished with pain. If I put food in my mouth that tastes good, that's naturally pleasing. Flipping a light switch, light comes on, I can see. Nobody had to tell me that that's a good thing. Turning on the faucet and water comes out, right? I mean, that is something that, yep, that's what I wanted. I got it. That's reinforcement. So it happens all the time. Writing on a sheet of paper the letters that you want to see, that's reinforcing. Writing too fast and screwing up your letters, that's punishment. The screw up is punishment. So you slow down and you're a little bit more specific. So that's how we mold our environment to be pleasant more often than it's unpleasant, is the natural reinforcers or punishments. Have you ever fallen upstairs because you're walking too fast? That's a natural environment punishment. So you slow down a little bit. Think Goldilocks here. We want our environment just right. So if we don't have enough sugar in our coffee, it doesn't taste good. It's punishment. So we put a little bit more until it's just right, and that's pleasing. So is the bed too warm? Is it too cold because my window's open? All those things, we want to get Goldilocks just right, and then that's pleasant to us, and we'll maintain it. Problems with punishment. So punishment is not as effective at shaping desirable behavior as is reinforcement. Reinforcement always gives somebody information about what they should be doing. And so they can increase it if they want that reinforcement, that approval. Punishment doesn't tell us what we're supposed to do. It only tells us what we're not supposed to do. So behavior isn't learned as fast. Plus, punishment can lead to other undesirable behaviors, such as anger and aggression. Yell at a dog or smack a dog, right? And the dog might growl back at you. That's not what you wanted. Lying. Kids can learn to lie. If you say, did you break that lamp? Tell me the truth. And they say yes. And then you punish that kid right away. What did you just punish it for? Telling the truth. So you have to be careful with punishment because it could lead to other undesirable behaviors, okay? And that's about where we're going to end. We didn't talk much about the schedules. Look at the schedules, ask questions tomorrow. Remember, always determine if it's continuous or intermittent, and then always determine, is it interval or ratio first? Can doing more behaviors make the consequence more likely? Then it's a ratio. I have to do it a certain number of times. If you have to wait, if the term minutes, seconds, hours, days, weeks is in there, if I have to wait, no matter how often I do it, then that's an interval. Then determine if it's fixed or variable. If I know how many behaviors it is, every 8 books you read, you get a Scoopy coupon from your teacher for Culver's. There's another food reference, I'm sorry. Then that's fixed ratio because doing the behavior makes the reward come about, and I know I have to do it 8 times. Variable means I don't know how many times it is. On average would be a good example, or approximately. So keep that in mind. Fixed interval produces that unique scalloped shape graph, and that is the one that shows cognition, because that little rat will bar press. After about 5 minutes, bar press really fast, and then it gets a food pellet. Doesn't matter how many times it bar presses, but it has to wait. So it's like it's anticipating. So look at that again, and double check our discussion for tomorrow. And hopefully we'll be able to help finish up any questions you have. And one of the last videos we have is on mirror neurons, very fascinating topic. But so hope to see you soon. You guys be well, and I miss you guys. Bye.